You are now listening to the Infinite Moment Podcast.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Infinite Moment Podcast. In this podcast, I attempt to address the causes of and solutions to our everyday stress. I rely on articles and studies to gain understanding on how stress affects every one of us and what are best options of reducing it. Together we learn and are encouraged to implement the solutions that are revealed as we continue to broaden our understanding of stress. This is episode 1, and we will be looking at deep breathing techniques. So, one of the most important techniques to reducing stress that I've learned personally, as well as seen and read plenty of examples of how breathing helps with reducing stress, is simply the deep breath. Now, there's obviously, to be alive, we're all breathing. If you're not currently breathing and you don't have some sort of assisted breathing apparatus, then you're probably not with us. So the breath is obviously very important and vital to our everyday life, but there are ways in which we can use the breath as a tool and a technique for deeper stress relief and methods of helping to bring our bodies into a state of homeostasis. So with that being said, we're going to take a look at a couple different articles and studies today that help us understand some of these techniques and how they can help us. Alright, so let's begin here. I'm going to navigate to a couple of these articles. Alright, let's see which we're going to start. We got about 5 that I want to go through. And we're just going to start with the one here. So let me share this screen. Alright, so this is an article in Everyday Health by Becky Upham, and it's titled Deep Breathing, a Complete Guide to the Relaxation Technique. Alright, so let's start here where it says, what is the function of breathing? There are 2 phases of breathing: inhaling, taking a breath in, and exhaling, breathing out. When you inhale, the diaphragm, which is the big dome-shaped muscle located between your chest and abdominal cavities, contracts and moves downward. This creates extra space in the chest cavity and the lungs expand into it. When you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes as that amount of air in the lungs is reduced. Breathing is essential to life because our bodies require oxygen to function. Moving your muscles, digesting food, and even reading these words are all body processes that require oxygen. Breathing also helps the body get rid of carbon dioxide, which is created as a waste product of these processes. There's an intentionality to deep breathing. You're really trying to fill your lungs with air. In most cases, you're not getting that when you're breathing normally, says Yufeng Lin, MD, a doctor at the Center for Integrative Medicine at Cleveland Clinic Health Systems in Ohio. When we're deep breathing, though, the breath naturally slows down, says Dr. Bell. When sitting down or doing a non-strenuous activity, most people on average breathe in for about 2 seconds and breathe out for 2 seconds, he says. That's about what a typical respiration rate is when we're not really consciously thinking about our breath. Deep breathing requires you to relax your abdominal region while you take a deep breath in, says Megan Elizabeth Rill, a clinical assistant professor and health psychologist at University of Michigan Health in Ann Arbor. We're more slowly filling the lungs with air as we breathe in and allowing the lungs to expand, which will move the diaphragm as it contracts. At the exhale, we release all the air out as the diaphragm relaxes and the chest wall recoils, she says. In focusing our awareness on the process, we can slow our breathing pattern, she says. Alright, so that's just a bit of an understanding and definition on what deep breathing is and what the normal state of breathing is. Alright, so here's a section that's titled Downsides of Shallow Breathing. Stress can shift our breathing, says Real. We can become shallow breathers in the face of stress or tension. This usually has to do with our body's sympathetic arousal, which can be activated in times of stress, she says. This is also known as the fight or flight response, and the release of hormones can drive up our breathing rate, heart rate, and blood pressure. This response prepares the body to survive a real or perceived threat. So whether there's a car swerving at you or you're going to talk to your boss about a raise, the body's sympathetic system responds similarly. Shallow breathing can lead to physical tension in different parts of your body, including your shoulders, jaw, hands, or back, she says. That tension also is associated with increased GI distress. Overall, it can have a snowball effect. Stress might trigger more shallow breathing, and then the physical effects can lead to more stress, she says. Alright, so here we're going to be comparing abdominal to chest breathing. We're all born as deep breathers, says Real. Think about a sleeping infant. Their little bellies rise and fall slowly and peacefully. You can see that really clearly. When we move out of infancy and begin to move and run around more, we shift from belly breathers or deep breathers to breathing from our chest more. Chest breathing still gets the job done of moving air through our lungs, but the breath tends to be shorter and more shallow. For most of us, when we're engaged in our everyday breathing, we're just breathing using the upper half or top third of our lungs. When you take a deep breath in, your chest is rising, but for most people, your abdomen is not moving at all. Abdominal breathing starts in the nose and moves to the stomach as the diaphragm contracts, causing the belly to expand and the lungs to fill with air. Compared with chest breathing, abdominal breathing not only brings in more oxygen, but it's also more efficient because it pulls down on the lungs. The negative pressure in the chest cavity that is created with breathing in is enhanced, resulting in more air flowing into the lungs. Okay, and then it goes on to list some of the potential health benefits of deep breathing. So it says a key benefit of deep breathing is that it can help manage stress, which is a contributor to many health conditions. While research results on deep breathing vary, experts agree deep breathing is safe for most people to try. Whether done alone as a meditation or in combination with a movement practice like yoga, this complementary approach may be worth trying if you are dealing with a health condition. Okay, so it lists and it says, for instance, deep breathing may help you manage or improve gastrointestinal conditions, high blood pressure, mental health conditions including depression, pelvic floor problems, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, skin conditions including eczema, autoimmune disease, neurological conditions, hot flashes, high blood sugar, and recovery from COVID-19. So those are some of the conditions it says it may be able to help with. When it comes to there being risk associated with deep breathing, it says, in the scheme of interventions, deep breathing is very low risk. Sometimes people will say when they are learning diaphragmatic breathing, they can feel a little lightheaded. That's because they are putting more oxygen in their bodies than they are typically used to. And levels of carbon dioxide are lowered. It might make you feel different from how you typically feel when you breathe, but it's not dangerous in any capacity. If you have any concerns or discomfort, such as pain or excessive lightheadedness, when starting a deep breathing technique, consult your healthcare team. Okay, so that's pretty much what it has to say when it comes to deep breathing. So that's just a quick synopsis on what deep breathing is, what some of its potential benefits could be, and if there's any associated or known risk or harm that go along with it. So the next article that we're going to take a look at is titled "The Benefits of Deep Breathing." It's by Theodora Blanchfield. All right, so this is an article in Very Well. So here it lists 4 different types of breath. All right, so the first one's called eupnea. Eupnea. This is probably the type of breathing that you're doing right now as you're reading this. This is the breathing that occurs when you're not thinking about breathing, also known as quiet breathing. Both the diaphragm and external intercostal muscles must contract. That might be intercostal muscles. Diaphragmatic breathing, also known as deep breathing. The diaphragm muscle must contract in this type of respiration. As the muscle contracts, breath passively leaves the lungs. Costal breathing. This type of breathing, also known as shallow breathing, uses your intercostal muscles, the muscles between your ribs. As these muscles relax, the air leaves your lungs. If you're stressed, you may be doing this type of breathing right now, or even unconsciously holding your breath. Hyperpnea, also known as forced breathing. Both inhalation and exhalation are active rather than passive due to muscle contractions. So this article also lists a couple conditions that deep breathing may help. It lists anxiety, depression, managing stress, improving focus, better sleep, faster recovery from exercise or exertion. So you see right here how many different conditions can potentially be benefited with deep breathing. And a lot of these conditions are fairly common. Anxiety, stress management, focus, sleep. But here's some other tips and tricks when it comes to deep breathing. It says it may sound silly to set an alarm or a timer to breathe, but it can help you ensure that you're getting these great deep breathing benefits regularly. All right, instead of rolling over and grabbing your phone when your alarm goes off, try for a few rounds of these breathing exercises. Do it prior to and during high stress situations. Practice deep breathing exercises when you don't necessarily need them at first, so that when you are feeling stressed and could benefit from it in the moment, you're already an expert at that time of deep breathing you want to utilize. You don't want to try deep breathing for the first time when you are in a high stress rate. The best part about breathing for relaxation is that nobody needs to know you're doing it, so you can do it at any time, anywhere. All right. So it's just listing some apps that are for breathing. You can read through that if you like. I will post these links. All right. So this article, those were 2 good deep breathing technique exercises to help you benefit from the benefits that come with deep breathing, some which we've read through already. So now this next article is titled The Power of Deep Breathing, 7 Techniques and Exercises. This is in positivepsychology.com by Daniela Ramirez Duran, PhD candidate, and this is from July 28, 2020. Okay, so let's go down here where it lists what the article contains, and we'll start with the section, What is Deep Breathing? Okay, so also known as yogic breathing, deep breathing is the voluntary regulation of breath by consciously and actively using the diaphragm to increase the inflow and outflow of air, as well as to decrease the frequency of each breathing cycle. Okay, the diaphragm is the muscle separating the abdomen and chest cavity, attached to the base of the lungs. The diaphragm is rarely activated when breathing unconsciously. This translates into a shallow breathing pattern, leading to poor ventilation and decreased respiratory efficiency. On the other hand, when breathing deeply, you engage this muscle by allowing your belly to rise and drop freely, facilitating a greater airflow and breathing efficiency. This allows an array of psychological and physiological processes to take place. Although the emphasis is on activating the diaphragm, Deep breathing involves the whole torso, from the lower belly up to the base of the neck, and comprises three types of breathing patterns. Abdominal breathing emphasizes the engagement of the diaphragm and minimizes the activation of the rib cage. This type of breathing facilitates greater respiratory efficiency. Thoracic breathing emphasizes the expansion and contraction of the rib cage over the use of the diaphragm. This type of breathing spends more energy, is often related to intense physical activity and stress. By using it in combination with abdominal breathing, it helps the body to obtain more oxygen. Okay, so here's a couple paragraphs about breath, which is the vital energy. Eastern perspectives like Taoism and Hinduism have long considered breath as the manifestation of vital energy residing in the body. After all, life begins with an inhalation and ends with an exhalation. And all that is in between is possible thanks to breath. In yoga, breath is a key element of the practice. The ancient text, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, considers pranayama as one of the 8 limbs of yoga. Pranayama, or breath regulation, refers to the extension of the vital energy through the breath and can be understood as an umbrella term for different breathing techniques, including deep breathing. It is also known as yogic breathing, since yogis intentionally regulate their breath to mobilize prana and anchor the mind while performing different asanas or postures. Yogis can also use deep breathing while meditating or practicing other types of pranayama, which include elements such as breath retention and sound. Although yoga and pranayama in particular have been in existence for thousands of years, they've only become known by Western societies in the late 19th century when introduced by Swami Vivekananda. Both yoga asana and pranayama practices increased in popularity due to their contended effectiveness in improving illness and health. This ignited interest within the scientific circles and propelled investigation throughout the 20th century. Alright, so here lists some benefits of deep breathing. We've covered that through the other 2 articles. So we're going to come down and go to deep breathing for stress and anxiety. Why and how does it work? It has been suggested that the vagus nervus mediates the effect of slow breathing on the autonomic nervous system. Slow respiration patterns increase vagal response not only within the respiratory system, but also in the gastrointestinal and cardiovascular systems. The vagus nerve delivers interoceptive information from these symptoms to the central nervous system, which is related to the psychological and behavioral responses. This would explain the effect of deep breathing in both physiological and psychological spheres. Different emotions has been associated with varying patterns of breathing, heart activity, and activation of either sympathetic or parasympathetic responses, which translates to experiencing less distressing and more positive emotions. Furthermore, the cardiovascular system synchronizes with the respiratory system during deep breathing. This is portrayed as a low heart rate and pace breathing at a ratio of 4 or 5 heartbeats for each breath. This synchronization might regulate the autonomic nervous system and the amygdala, thus facilitating positive emotional states and decreasing anxiety. According to yogic tradition, pranayama comprises 4 elements that are used in different breathing techniques in diverse ways. According to yogic tradition, pranayama comprises 4 elements that are used in different breathing techniques in diverse ways. These elements are inhalation, internal breath retention, and external breath retention. Alright, so 3 breathing exercises to learn deep breathing. You might want to start by doing the first 1 or 2 for a few sessions and then incorporate 1 more as you become more familiar with the first steps. 1. Breath awareness. The breath awareness exercise is a simple introduction to your breathing pattern, which helps you to slow down and enter a relaxed pace of breathing. Sitting in an upright position or lying down on your back. Find a comfortable position that you can sustain for a few minutes. Release any unnecessary tension and gently bring your awareness to your breath. You only need to observe your breath. Do not change anything. Observe the movements and sensations in your body with each inhalation and exhalation. Let your attention travel with the air passing through your nose and throat to your lungs, feeling the expansion of the chest and belly. Continue doing this for a few minutes. Alright, so I'm going to switch back over. I'm just going to observe each breath as I inhale and exhale. Okay, very calming, very relaxing. Alright, so step 2. 3 steps to deep breathing. To experience deep breathing, first you will have to identify and experience 3 types of breathing that comprise it. For this exercise, it is better to lie down on your back if possible. Place your right hand on top of your navel and left hand on top of your chest. Start by observing the natural flow of your breath for a few cycles. Feel the right hand rising while the left hand remains almost still on top of the chest. Feel the right hand coming down as you exhale while keeping the abdomen relaxed. Continue to repeat this for a few minutes without straining the abdomen, but rather allowing it to expand and relax freely. After some repetitions, return to your natural breathing. Okay, so that's similar to the breathing exercise of deep breathing we did earlier. Basically putting your hand, one of your hands on your chest, the other one above your abdomen, and taking a deep breath in, a deep breath out, continuing that pattern for a few minutes, and just feeling how your hand above your abdomen moves while your hand above your chest should be rather still. The second listed breathing is thoracic breathing. Without changing your position, you will now shift your attention to your rib cage. With the next inhalation, think of intentionally sending the air toward your rib cage instead of the abdomen. Let the thorax expand and rise freely, allowing your left hand to move up and down as you keep breathing. Breathe through the chest without engaging your diaphragm, slowly and deeply. Your right hand should remain almost still. Continue to repeat this breathing pattern for a few minutes. Okay, so that's shallow breathing. That's trying to breathe into the rib cage instead of the diaphragm. And this time you should be feeling the hand on your chest rise or in the rib cage rise and the one on your abdomen fairly still. That would be thoracic breathing or shallow breathing. Okay, and then the third breathing is clavicular breathing, which with the next inhalation, repeat the thoracic breathing pattern, and when the rib cage is completely expanded, inhale a bit more, thinking of allowing the air to fill the upper section of your lungs at the base of your neck. Feel the shoulders and collarbone rise gently to find some space for the extra air to come in. Exhale slowly, letting the collarbone and shoulders drop first, and return to your natural breathing. Alright, so first we're going to take the deep breath where we're breathing all the way in, pushing down, contracting the diaphragm, breathing in through the abdomen. All right. The second one will be where we breathe in thoracic breathing, shallow breath, breathing the air into the rib cage or the chest. And then the last is a variation of that one where we'll do that same thoracic breathing, but let a little bit more air in at the end of the inhalation to try and fill the lungs up to the back of the neck. All right, so deep breath first. One hand on the chest, the other hand on the abdomen. Deep breath in, contracting the diaphragm. Next, shallow breath. Breathe into the chest. And then shallow breath again, but also additional breath at the end of the inhalation. All right. So the most calming, the best feeling is the deep breath. The shallow breath feels like, I guess, the closest to what normal breathing is. But that's honestly, when you bring your awareness to that, for me personally, it feels really shallow. And I feel like I will benefit better from a deeper breathing pattern. That last breath style where you breathe in the additional breath at the very end definitely like almost seemed to cause the body additional stress. It's strange to try and breathe in additional air up into that part of the body without naturally letting it just become a deep breath. So I would say that felt the most unnatural, the most uncomfortable. All right, and we'll go down here where it says yogic breathing. It says start by practicing this meditation technique lying on your back with one hand on your belly and the other hand on your chest. Start by focusing on your natural breath as practiced in the first exercise. Continue to practice 3 stages of deep breathing sequentially. With the next inhalation, think of intentionally sending the air toward the navel by letting your abdomen expand and rise freely. Continue breathing and thinking of sending the rest of the air into the rib cage, allowing it to expand fully. Continue to inhale the remaining amount of air you can by letting the collarbone and shoulders to arise. Exhale slowly by first dropping the shoulders and collarbone, then relaxing the rib cage and finally releasing the abdomen. Repeat this for a few minutes, drawing your attention to your hands as they rise and fall as you breathe. You can start counting as you inhale and exhale, keeping the same ratio. For example, you can count up to 4 on each inhale and 4 on each exhale. After a few repetitions, return to your natural breathing. Okay, so let's give that a shot. Alright, so we're going to combine all 3 of those techniques. Count of 4 on the inhale and the exhale. Alright, so deep breath into the abdomen, then up into the chest, and then an additional more that pushes it up toward the back of the neck. And then on the exhale, on the release it out the back of the neck. On the shoulders, we'll release it out the chest, and then we'll release it from the abdomen. And we'll go through a couple cycles of that. All right, so let's begin. Alright, we're going to check out another breathing technique here, and it's called the 4-7-8 breathing exercise. Okay, so here's how to do the 4-7-8 breathing exercise. This is from the Cleveland Clinic, posted on September 6, 2022. So here's a quote from the late Buddhist monk. I'm not exactly sure how to say his name, but the quote goes, "Breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile, dwelling in the present moment. I know this is the only moment." So it goes on to say, how incredibly peaceful does that sound? Breathing techniques like 4-7-8 breathing can help you tap into the inner calm, benefiting everything from your stressed out nervous system to how well you sleep at night. Integrative medicine specialist Melissa Young, MD, explains how to do this soothing style of breathing and what health benefits it can provide. So, the 4-7-8 breathing technique is a style of intentional breath work that can calm your mind and body. Though popularized in 2015 by integrative medicine specialist Andrew Will, MD, it has ancient roots in the yogic practice of pranayama, or focusing on the breath. The gist of it goes like this. Step 1. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Step 2. Hold your breath for 7 counts. Step 3. Exhale through your mouth for 8 counts. But there's a little bit more if you want to ensure that you're tapping into all of the health benefits. So you'll notice this was one of the breathing techniques we actually tried earlier, of breathing in for 4, holding the breath for 7, and then exhaling for 8. Now, in this article it says there's a little bit more to tap in and really gain the health benefits of this. But before we go over that, let's just kind of go over some of the benefits of 4-7-8 breathing. Here's a quote from Dr. Young. "Yoga breathing techniques calm the body down and bring it into a more relaxed state. This kind of breathing can help us focus our mind and our body away from worries and repetitive thoughts." Okay, so calm your mind. The repetitive nature of 4-7-8 breathing provides a calming distraction to your racing mind. The counting sequence is a way to focus your mind on something other than your worries. Your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for your body's fight or flight response. When you're stressed, this system goes into overdrive, which makes you feel amped up, like a fast beating heart, shallow breathing, and other telltale signs of stress, like sweaty hands and an upset stomach. Your parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for relaxing your sympathetic nervous system and helping you calm down. Breathing techniques like 4-7-8 breathing can play a huge role in activating your parasympathetic nervous system and helping you to shift back toward tranquility, Dr. Young says. Forget counting sheep and skip right to counting your breath. Calming your mind and reducing your anxiety can go a long way towards a good night's sleep. And 4-7-8 breathing is associated with both. It's also been shown to decrease heart rate and blood pressure, which puts your body in the right state for sleep. So let's go over how to do 4-7-8 breathing. It says you can do this practice in any position, though Dr. Will recommends sitting up with your back straight. If you're using 4-7-8 breathing to help you fall asleep though, you can even do it while lying in bed. Here's how to do it. Position your tongue. Throughout this breathing technique, your tongue should stay toward the roof of the mouth, with the tip of your tongue touching the back of your 2 front teeth. Breathe out deeply. With any breathing technique, it's ideal to start with an exhale. Dr. Young says let your breath out through your lips, making a whooshing sound. Now you're ready to begin counting. Breathe in through your nose while mentally counting up to 4. Don't go too slowly or too quickly. Pick a pace that works for you. Without straining or stressing, gently hold your breath while counting to 7 in your mind. Breathe out slowly for 8 counts with your lips slightly pursed around your tongue. You should hear that whooshing sound. You've now completed 1 cycle of 4-7-8 breathing. Do steps 3 through 5 again for 3 more cycles. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold your breath for 7 counts. Exhale through your mouth for 8 counts. Position my tongue on the back of my teeth, on top of my mouth. I'll let the first breath out. I'll breathe in for 4 seconds. I'll hold that breath for 7 seconds. And I'll release it for 8 seconds. And I'll repeat that several times. All right. Alright, so that was a 4-7-8 breathing technique. Really beneficial breathing technique there. Definitely enjoy that one. Alright, so it says practice, make it a habit, fine tune it, and you can reap the benefits of that. There's one more article we're going to take a look at here before we close out. This is from Harvard Business Review by Emma Sepapala. September 29th, 2020, and it's titled Research: Why Breathing is So Effective at Reducing Stress. When U.S. Marine Corps officer Jake D's vehicle drove over an explosive device in Afghanistan, he looked down to see his legs almost completely severed below the knee. At that moment, he remembered a breathing exercise he had learned in a book for young officers. Thanks to that exercise, he was able to stay calm enough to check on his men, give orders to call for help, tourniquet his own leg, and remember to prop them up before falling unconscious. Later he was told that had he not done so, he would have bled to death. If a simple breathing exercise could help Jake under such extreme duress, similar techniques can certainly help the rest of us with our more common workplace stresses. The combination of the COVID-19 pandemic and battles for social justice have only exacerbated the anxiety that many of us feel every day, and studies show that this stress is interfering with our ability to do our best work. But with the right breathing exercises, you can learn to handle your stress and manage negative emotions. Alright, so those are some of the breathing techniques, deep breathing techniques, how deep breath can affect and benefit our health, our focus, how that can reduce stress. So it's important. I would recommend trying some of these breath techniques for stress reduction, for overall better well-being. You can try some of these breathing exercises before you go to sleep. If you find yourself in a high stressful situation, practice these techniques ahead of time so that if you do find yourself in a high stressful situation, you have the techniques and skills to accurately respond. Because oftentimes when you're already in the stress, if you haven't practiced these or made these part of your program to respond to stress, then it'll be a lot harder and more difficult to even think to do these techniques, let alone to be able to effectively do them without getting caught up in the stress of the moment. So that concludes this episode of The Infinite Moment, episode 1, deep breathing techniques. I'll catch you guys next time.